Hi, it's Susan, also known as the cranky old crone. I'm kind of cranky today because I am doing some shadow work, some intense shadow work, as I hope you are in joining me in this very short series. Today's the third of what will be 4 videos on how to become a unicorn. In the previous 2 videos, I have talked about the fact that a unicorn is the term sociologists use for self-aware people, and that's because they're so rare. I will include in the description box below the original video that inspired me to do this short series this week, and the book that she used to cite the psychological and sociological studies that were done, so that you might take a deeper look into this yourself. I think those of us who use the tarot for shadow work are committed to growing our self-awareness, which personally I believe is the only dance in town. That's what we're here to do. And so I'm finding it very difficult to ask myself through the tarot how to see deeper into the 7 aspects or attributes of a self-aware person, a unicorn. Those are values, passions, aspirations, which I covered in the last video, strengths, weaknesses, which we're going to look at today, and patterns and environmental fit, which we'll look at in the 4th video in the next couple of days. It is difficult to read for yourself. It is difficult to do shadow work. I'm very fortunate in that I have a counselor I work with. I have some very close friends who I consider to be quite emotionally mature and self-aware. And so I can go to them and ask for feedback. And I hope you have the same resources. But whether or not you do, the tarot is a great place to start. It will give us a little bit of insight, a little clue what to look at. And it's not always an immediate answer when we're reading for ourselves, is it? It's often something we have to sit with. We pick a card, and I have found this myself this week. I choose a card looking at these different aspects of self-awareness, and I'm not sure what it is trying to tell me. And so I set the card out where I can see it as I'm passing by it throughout the day. I think about it. I see it in my outer world when I go out, and it slowly reveals itself to me, and at least gives me some insight, something to think about. What does this aspect of self-awareness mean to me? How can I get to know myself better through this? And I'm going to continue to do some other in-depth videos after this series. They're going to take this into a specific healing viewpoint, because I want to know how we use this specifically, this information about self-awareness, specifically to heal and overcome and outgrow our behavioral patterns that are no longer serving us, our beliefs that are no longer serving us, and our relationships that are no longer serving us. How do we overcome narcissistic abuse in our lives, to be very specific, using the tarot? So, for strengths, I was shuffling, if you didn't notice, and I drew the King of Swords, which is very interesting because the last card I drew was the King of Wands. So obviously the kings are trying to get through to me, to tell me something. And I talked a little bit before about The king is the person who stands their ground. You know, you don't have to like him, but he's been groomed his entire life for just a time such as this, when he is crowned and comes into power. And it remains to be seen, what does he do with that power? Is he a benevolent leader or not? But you will learn to respect him. You will ask, what are his influences in your day-to-day life? And in the King of Swords, swords are about intellect and about our conditioned mind and our conditioned response. And in the king specifically, he holds that one sword up right in front of his face, because he has to get to the truth, to the very best of his ability. He is in the position of power where he is the most vulnerable. Everyone wants to take him down or get him to do their bidding. Everybody has an agenda for the king. And the king's only objective has to be, what is the truth? To the very best of my ability, how do I cut through everything else that is superfluous and stick to my truth and stand in my truth and rule from my truth? This is about learning to rule myself, and specifically my strengths. Know my strengths and stop second guessing them. Swords are always going to tell us to stop second guessing ourselves. Weaknesses, I drew another card. I drew the Page of Swords. You know, and 55 years of experience with the tarot, and all I can tell you is this stuff works. You know, I can't argue with it. It just works. Okay, so here's what I'm going to tell you about drawing the Page of Swords. This is representing my weaknesses. I talked about self-doubt. I'm going to tell you that I might have drawn the King of Swords to represent my weaknesses, except I'd already pulled him out of the deck, hadn't I? So he wasn't available to me. And so what is the deck going to do if it wants to emphasize this card and the message of this card? It's going to draw the next closest card. Not the Queen, because she would tell me not to take action, not to stand in my truth, but to quietly work behind the scenes. That's not what he's telling me. Not the Knight, because the Knight is like the military general who's going to take all the risks for the king. He's going to go out and fight the battles. He's going to go out beyond the protection of the walled castle. And he's going to collect the taxes, and people aren't going to like him. And he's going to do all kinds of other things that are necessary in running a system, but not the message for me about how to look more deeply at my strengths and my weaknesses. So the deck gives me the Page of Swords. The town crier, hear ye, I have a message from the king. He's saying, pay attention to the king. These are your weaknesses. You can't hold that sword straight up and down in front of you, that sort of truth. You haven't got that kind of power yet. You haven't got that kind of self-awareness yet of how your intellect does serve you and how it doesn't serve you, or how it fools you. But here I am slightly less mature, the younger version representing the king, as your weaknesses. I'm a little bit smaller, a little bit younger, a little bit less self-aware. And I am telling you that it's time for you to stop doubting yourself and stand in what you know. I'm going to play with those cards for the next few days and then come back and finish this series with you. I hope you'll join me. I hope you will draw 2 cards today that will help to show you your strengths and your weaknesses, and journal about what those might mean to you, and watch where they show up in your life today and for the next few days. And then I hope you'll come back and join me again. Thanks for being here.